All right. Hey, everybody. This is Dana with Blood Origins Canada. This is another episode of Our Stories Connect Us All. And today I'm sitting down with Teddy Cosco from Cast and Iron on Instagram, although he has many other um, acronyms underneath his name and names and everything. But I first met you, Teddy, through Instagram when I had my business, Valley to Shore, which I just closed in July. But I had that for 2.5 years. And you had an event in the summer of 2022 that you were allowed to take two guests to this event with Frial Robin. You were making some chili and cornbread on the beach in Kitsilano. And for some reason, you invited me as one of your guests, and I was so stoked. So I call you like my gateway guy because that event and meeting you and then meeting your other guest, Lee Miller with BHA, just put me on a path to where I am today in the hunting world and getting outside and just meeting people in the hunting and fishing and conservation community. So I call you my gateway guy. So thank you very much for inviting me that day, 2.5 years ago now. So thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, it's coming full circle. There we go.
Yeah, crazy. It's crazy how life goes. Yeah, you just never know what's going to happen. And now you've moved to my neck of the woods. You are on the North Shore now.
Greener pastures.
That's right. Rainforest and lots of water over here. So,
Yeah, and fewer sketchy folks as well.
hmm
I'll trade, bears.
yeah, there's a lot more bears. I had a ton of bears in my yard this year. So I'm sure you'll see them shortly as the weather warms up.
Yeah, that's certainly the hope. That's what we expected when we got our welcome to the neighborhood newsletter, and it's like, welcome to bear country.
Okay. Make sure that bear spray is handy. I actually did end up using, like, not using bear spray, but taking it with me, even just around the house to the back garden for the first time ever this year because there were just a ton this past summer. I don't know why, but this year more than ever, there were so many bears. But um, yeah, I guess we'll see what this summer holds
There we
as far
go.
as black bears in the hood. But yeah, tell me about yourself. Like where were you born? Where did you grow up? What was your childhood like?
Yeah, that's a lot to cover.
Yeah, in Cole's notes.
Yeah. So I was born in Whitehorse in the Yukon.
Okay.
My family was big into the outdoors. Both my parents actually lived in Vancouver before they lived in Whitehorse, and so sort of come full circle that I live in Vancouver now. Yeah, born in Whitehorse. I've got two younger brothers, and my family is big into hunting and fishing and all that good stuff. We moved down south to Edmonton for school, effectively, and that was when my dad really got into um, flying bush planes and such. And so we spent a lot of my childhood flying around with my dad. And we spent every summer, we went to school in Edmonton or just outside of Edmonton, but every summer we spent back in Whitehorse. And yeah, flying around like my uncle, float plane pilot, my dad, float plane pilot. And then both my younger brothers now are both commercial pilots, bush pilots. So yeah, we really grew up with the outdoors in our blood, and that was sort of the thing to do. And then when I got a little bit older, I moved away. I moved to the UK, moved to Dublin in 2009. Lived in Dublin for a couple of years. Lived in Cambridge for 4 years, doing grad school, and then was living in London in the UK. And then my partner and I were moving back to Canada, and it was Vancouver or bust. And it's sort of the origin story for Cast and Iron is really the grew up doing catch and cook, and then when I went to the UK, it was really a lot of dinner parties and sort of elevating food or trying to cook good food at least for a bunch of people. And then when I moved back to Canada, my dad, I found the old cast iron pan that my dad used when we were kids, and then that was sort of bringing the catch and cook piece, integrating that with sort of more trying to elevate food like it would do at a dinner party. And then yeah, it all sort of took off from there. And then here we are.
Wow. That's a cool story. I did not know that about your, well, about any of your background really, but that's really neat about, yeah, your origins up north. I'm from Edmonton originally,
I don't
so
know
maybe
why.
we were there at the same time. Yeah. But I've been here now for 30 years coming up. Um, so did you, because like your photography and your videography on your Instagram is beautiful. Like it's really simple cooking, but like it is elevated, like you say. So where did you learn to cook?
My parents. Yeah, my parents are big into cooking, and particularly outdoor cooking. And we did a lot of. I always say that I learned like catch and release came to me later in life because it was always you'd
Right.
catch and you'd release the fish that were too small to eat. So we did a lot of catch cook stuff growing up, and then my dad was big into dinner parties. He was always hosting a bunch of people at our place and doing that. And then my mom was a real utilitarian cook. And my brothers and I have two younger brothers, and we were all really interested in cooking at a young age. Never did any professional training or anything like that. But like when my mom was finishing up her PhD, when I was like 11, something on 10 maybe, my mom hired a babysitter to watch me when I would cook dinner for the family. So there would be somebody like I was like super young, but I cooked dinner for the family. That was my one meal of the week. So yeah, it just sort of
Nice.
came from that. Like, and it was interesting because like I think cooking it now has become a thing where it's not as sort of like a big a gender divide. And I think like a lot more like dudes are cooking, and that's like a cool thing. And my both my brothers are real macho types, but they both really like cooking as well, and they're good cooks, which I always find like a sort of like odd juxtaposition. But yeah, no, it's always just sort of been a thing that we've always done and really
Okay.
enjoyed.
Neat. Okay. Yeah, my youngest, he is probably the chefiest chef of all four of my kids. He'll be the first to cook something or bake something ahead of his older brothers or even his sister. So yeah, hopefully he'll stick with it because I think it's awesome. It's such a good skill to have. Not everybody knows how to cook, and like you and I, we just cook and we can throw ingredients together and we know how they're going to taste. We can anticipate that flavor profile that we're going for, but that's just not everybody's norm. So that's really neat that you grew up with that.
Yeah, I always think it's such a universally respected skill. You know, everybody has to eat. It's such a common denominator that everybody shares. And, you know, I don't think anybody is like, oh, they're a real great guy, but they're a good cook. I don't know about that. You know, it's such a universally respected thing. And you
Right.
go out and have dinner with somebody and having like preparing a good meal for somebody, I would think is such like a really it's a way that you demonstrate that you respect and care for people, and you can do that through food, which I think is like such a universal thing, like from caveman to the modern day, being able to like prepare food from your family is such a universally respected thing, at least in my mind. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all right.
Sorry, just muting my notification.
So you've got many things going on, many occupations that you do. So like the cast and iron thing, when did you start that Instagram page?
September 2019. I think it was the official launch date. Basically, what it was happening is that because we only moved back to Canada in November of 2017, and
Okay.
yeah, it was basically like we were going on trips and cooking and stuff, and my uh, wife and sister in law were taking photos of that, and then it started dominating their Instagram feeds and getting some traction. We're like, maybe we should do that. I
Mm,
think a really important thing to note about Cast and Iron is that there's three of us, and
right. Yeah.
I am categorically the least useful of the three of us. And Maddie, my wife, is head of delivery at a content marketing agency, and she's worked in content marketing and advertising and things like that her entire adult life. and my sister-in-law has been in uh, influencer marketing for like a decade, and has
Okay.
with so they actually know what they're doing in terms of like how to run an account, and they do all the photography and the editing and everything. I'm literally just in front of the camera,
Hmm.
so probably the least important part of the whole thing, but the most public facing, which is very ironic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a like a whole machine working behind the scenes that really uh, does the heavy lifting, and then I'm just there in photos.
You're just a pretty face in front of the camera, putting
Wouldn't go
together
that far,
some.
but I'm definitely in front of the camera.
Well, they do an amazing job, and that's what really drew me to that Instagram handle was the just the beauty of the food and the places that you guys go to. Um, it's just it's simple, but it's beautiful at the same time. So it's very approachable. It doesn't feel like I could never do that, but it's just something like that looks exciting and that looks delicious and it's beautiful. So yeah, the three of you are very they're a good trio. The three of you
Thanks,
do
I
good
appreciate
work.
it. I'll pass that on to them.
There you go. Thank you. So the goal of Cast and Iron is just that, right? It's to show people the beauty of being outside and cooking what you catch, bringing simple ingredients together. I'm guessing
Yeah,
something like that,
pretty much nailed it, and I'm glad that it's always nice when I like people are like, "Oh, cast iron's about this," and then they describe something that we had sort of set out. And that was
right?
like before we started the account, we set out like having like brand pillars, like proper marketing stuff, and like set out like we wanted to capture like the beauty of nature and particularly like the area in which we live, and then simple food that's accessible and the connection to food. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and a real part of that was trying to lower the barrier to entry and highlight that virtually anybody with a little bit of forethought and a few resources can do it. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a professionally trained chef. I'm not a like professional outdoors person or anything like that. The great irony of it being is like I sit at a desk. Like that's my full time job.
Yeah.
I'm an academic professionally, and that's my job. So like if I can do it, anybody can do it. And yeah, it's really about like trying to lower that barrier to entry and highlight to people that if you put a little bit of forethought into it, you can find a way to do it, and you don't need to be putting some crazy fancy YouTube learn techniques into place to be able to make a nice meal for your friends and family. I always
Mm-hmm.
say that the secret ingredient in camp food is hunger.
Right. And
The
any
food
meal
is the
that you
secret.
push out is going to taste so good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, and you've got some. So yeah, you mentioned that you're an academic 9 to 5. You have is it your own business that you run, or you work for a company?
Oh yeah, so like I'm a professor at SFU. Like that's my
Okay, right.
real person job. But yeah, I do like a lot of consulting and stuff like that on the side. Um, I like building like health technology companies and
Mm,
working in that space. I do a lot of work in like mental health. That's sort of my wheelhouse of expertise.
mm-hmm,
And um, so yeah, lots of work on like mental health, and that's where it's been really interesting as well as like a total tangent is. So my research is on mental health, and I'm promoting and researching lifestyle factors associated with better mental health. And then,
mm-hmm,
and cast iron's a lot about getting out in the outdoors, eating good food, socializing, doing physical activity, which are all sort of the major pillars of promoting mental health. So then
right.
in more recent history, I've been trying to sort of merge those two worlds. And it started off with a video I did with Leatherman and a couple of years ago, and talking
Mm-hmm,
about how the outdoors are a vehicle to better mental health. And then I started writing for magazines in areas that are typically not associated with promoting mental health, and
mm-hmm,
areas that have sort of been like classic like bro mental health stigmatizing arenas that have tried to sort of raise awareness about that and normalize the conversation. So that's been a really cool melding of the worlds for me, which has been great.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, it's such an important thing to talk about and to give people handles of how to handle mental health in different ways. My husband, he has his own company working with veterans with their mental health, so trying to get them um yeah, just feeling like they're in the driver's seat again, and that there's supports for them, and there's ways that they can help themselves, and that there's a community there for them. So yeah, getting them outside, getting them in nature, and doing something with their hands, being productive, being creative, is huge. So that's a really neat. It's neat how life sort of takes us. You think you're just gonna sort of focus on this one thing, and then you have an interest, and it all weaves together. And then other companies like Leatherman and Fjallraven have got on board with what you're doing, and supported you in that venture too, which is really neat.
Yeah, no, it's good. Like it's nice to like one of the great luxuries we have with Cast and Iron is that we're not out there pounding the pavement trying to drum up contracts. We can selectively work with brands that align with our value systems and are integrated organically into what we're doing anyways. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so like I've been carrying a Leatherman for like my entire adult life, and the and like Fjallraven's like really good gear and that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
yeah, and like with Extra Tough is another one that I've working with for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents were wearing Extra Tough boots like in the 70s and 80s. And
Nice.
in full circle to me, like starting to work with them, they're like, oh, that's so funny. We have our, legacy boots from 30, 40 years ago. So yeah, like I think that is one of the nice things about how I think like it definitely like life works in mysterious ways for sure, but equally, you make a lot of your own luck.
Mm.
It's a thing where if you're moving in a direction, like what we were
Mm-hmm.
doing with Cast and Iron and what I was doing and still I'm doing with my academic career, and then brands sort of that we resonated with reached out and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, we should do something together. And we're like, yeah, that would be great. So there's sort of it all came together in an organic way, but um, yeah, things work
Yeah.
out well sometimes.
Yeah. That's super cool. And you've got something else on the go. I've noticed recently on Instagram, the Spey Foundation, or Spey. Is that, did I get that right? Spey
Yeah,
program.
the Spey Foundation, British Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, no, that's I'm super excited about it. Uh, it's something I've been thinking about for a while, and just looking at the hunting and fishing world is a weird space, and particularly on the internet.
Yeah.
And I think that I think there's a lot of potential to be like a force for good in that
Mm-hmm.
space. And with my like academic work, I'm trying to promote better mental health, and with Cast and Iron, I'm trying to promote greater inclusivity and that sort of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking in the space like spay casting and fishing for anadromous fish. A lot of people talk about conservation and how it's important, and
Mm-hmm.
we need to do this. We need to protect our waters. They've got their Snake River Dam sticker or something like that, and
Right.
all that good stuff. And on the internet, they're liking every conservation post that comes their way. But the reality of it is, none of that does anything in the real world. Like it's great, pat on the back that you support it. That's excellent. And but I think that there's a real opportunity to actually do stuff, and nothing says I actually support conservation like raising money for it and
Mm-hmm.
able to do put forward like actionable things that support that. And like I'm not an ambassador for like the world of spay casting or fly fishing or steelheading. I'm one person, but I have a myself and like the other founder, Sam Rocha, who's also a professor. We have a unique skill set in like we write grants for a living, and that's a thing that we do day in day out. And writing a grant for a mental health related piece is virtually the same mechanism as writing a grant for like steelhead conservation in principle. And like
Okay.
my background is like I do a lot of like methodological consulting and for like research methods and how to do knowledge syntheses and that sort of thing. And although like my content expertise isn't in steelhead conservation per se, like being able to have like the toolkit to do research in virtually any area. Like my master's is in specifically like applied research methods, and so being able to take the skill sets we have like in the research world and apply for government grants for steelhead conservation is something that we can do leveraging our real world day job skill sets is something that is
Hmm.
somewhat unique. And then also, um, I like took the cast iron store offline so that I could basically relaunch it as it'll be like a Shopify store where um, it'll be like merch, like shirts and mugs and stickers and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but 100% of the net proceeds go to charity. So it's like raising funds to go to organizations like the Steelhead Society of BC and the Pacific Salmon Foundation. So that's my long-winded sort of explanation. But the crux of it is that I saw an opportunity to try and be a force for positivity in the space. I'm not trying to represent the whole community by any stretch.
Hmm.
It's doing what I can with the skill sets that I have in like, the research world. I can write grants. That's something I can do for in my academic career, but I can also do it for in the sort of steelhead world. And then being able to take like an online store that I already had, and then rather
Right.
than putting money in my own pocket, I can put it into the pocket of people who are doing great work with that. So
Nice.
that's sort of the crux of it, and that's just the first stage. This is like that's our year one plan.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
That's fairly new. So what is
it's
it about
pretty,
steelhead? What is it about steelhead that really gets you going? Because that's definitely a species that I've seen a lot on your Instagram. So obviously something that you care deeply about.
yeah. I have a personal connection with it, like through my family, and then like if anybody who's caught a steelhead understands, like like once you, particularly like if you caught a steelhead on a swung fly, you're like, oh, that's why it's like the best game fish ever in freshwater. Um, but like it's funny, like my personal connection with it was I grew up with steelhead being this like mysterious fish that was totally unattainable. Because my dad, being very clever, we fished for salmon and trout and everything like that all growing up, but steelhead were sacred.
Right.
He would go to the
Yeah.
dean every year with the boys and leave the kids at home. So we never fished for steelhead when we were kids at all, ever. And it
Okay.
was this like mysterious thing. And as I discovered, it was just like him having like a piss up with the boys on the dean now, which is now that I'm a parent, I'm like, that is genius. Like, I need to
Now
come
you
up
get
with
it.
my equivalent of that. Yeah. So then when I like returned to like got back to Canada and like it's fishing for salmon and Atlantics and stuff over there, but then like properly like getting back into the swing of things and like rediscovering that whole fishery. It's like, damn, it's I had forgotten. And then so
Mm.
that was sort of like my personal connection to it. But I think from like a conservation perspective, it's a really vulnerable
Yeah.
species.
Hmm.
Um, and they just don't have the numbers, and they're multiple spawners, like Atlantic salmon, and as opposed to Pacific salmon, which spawn and die, spawn once and die. And
Mm.
it's yeah, they're big and they're strong and they are elusive. It's difficult. Like I think a lot of like I think steelheading and spey casting really go hand in hand because you spend the bulk of your time casting, and if you don't enjoy the casting, you're in the wrong uh, sport or the wrong sort of arena. The yeah, so that's a whole like the whole casting thing is really something I enjoy. Like I'll go and just practice on a lake with a piece of wool. Um, and I really enjoy that. And like the steelheading thing is um, something I really enjoy. Part of the reason being that I enjoy the casting. Obviously, the
Mm-hmm.
fish part is a bonus, but yeah, I think there's something like really unique about steelhead. It's like my personal connection to it through my dad, and then just the actual act of fishing for steelhead is something that I really enjoy. So, and then like there's the whole like vulnerability component that adds sort of
Mm-hmm.
like the cherry on top for why it's a really worthwhile cause in my estimation.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember the first time you caught a steelhead? What that was like?
Yes, shock and surprise because it was something that like I didn't even expect it. It was this I can't even remember how long it was, but it was something where I was literally out just practicing casting. I wasn't even proper fishing.
Okay.
I was out just like putting around, working on some casts and stuff. And I had a fly on, but I wasn't expecting it. Like I wasn't even taking steps down. Like I was just standing one spot casting. And then I'm like, I think something's happening here. And it's like,
Yeah.
and then yeah, but yeah, it's sort of it's unexpected when you actually get into one, which is I think one of my favorite things is that it's usually when you like get into a rhythm and you're not even thinking about it. It's just like, cast, swing, step, cast, swing, step, and just on repeat. And
Mm-hmm.
you get into that rhythm. That's usually when it happens. So that's, um, yeah, and it's definitely like a chasing the dragon situation where you never forget what it felt like the first time you're battling like a proper steelhead.
Mm-hmm.
And then they fight differently than like salmon. Like Chinook salmon are big and dumb and fun, but
Yeah.
they just like bulldog you. And
Mm.
it's I don't know. I think steelhead the way that steelhead fight, I think is the best. Like big blistering runs and like jumping around and all that, and like rather than just like bulldogging you and like yeah. So
Just tugging on the line. They're
yeah, pretty much.
trying to outsmart you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done a lot of fishing in my life. So, the last fish I caught was a pink salmon on the Thompson River in 23 in September. So,
I don't know. Well, the pinks are running in 2025, so I
oh,
think
we know it's circled on the calendar. My son is like, regardless, because I'm not sure if we're going to homeschool him again for grade 8, but he's like, I don't care if you put me in school. I'm not missing the pink run. So like we are going.
yeah. No, it should be good. Should be good.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. Well, that's very cool. All of that stuff. Yeah, I know that the steelhead species is very vulnerable, and that particular time when we were on the pink run or when we were on the Thompson fishing for pink, I caught something that I was terrified was a steelhead because I was like, I don't want one because I don't want to like mess up and kill this thing or get one that's too small and then I'm in trouble and I just want the steelhead can just stay away from my line. Anyway, it ended up being like a pretty good sized rainbow trout, but I wasn't sure what I had there, so I threw him back. And later on, when I showed pictures to other people more knowledgeable than me, they're like, "Whoa, that was a good sized rainbow." I was like, "Oh, I guess I could have kept it." But
Yeah, well, that's the interesting thing is that like rainbow trout and steelhead are the same species. Um, it's just steelhead go out to the ocean and rainbow do not. So that's the only difference between the two of them.
okay, so
So
it was it's
if
easy
that
to yeah.
yeah, it's there's definitely some differentiation when they go to the ocean, but
Mm-hmm.
if in doubt, don't bonk it.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
very difficult to. Same with hunting.
Mm.
If in doubt,
Yeah,
don't pull the trigger.
that's
That'll
right.
really difficult to take it back.
Yeah. Yeah. But the heart gets going and you're so excited. Um, so yeah, just to be on top of those emotions when you're out there and just really careful and intentional about what you're doing. I know that.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't probably should have mentioned this earlier in the hunting related podcast. So my family like ran a hunting outfit in the Yukon for years and years,
Okay.
and yeah, so like my brother's been guiding like his entire adult life, and it's amazing. They talk about like buck fever.
Hmm.
It is so funny. I find it very amusing when people are in camp and they're like, "Oh, I shoot a bigger caliber than you," and blah blah blah, and then that they can barely shoot. You
Right.
go try and like zero your gun in, and they're totally afraid of it, and like flinching and all this, and then they get the moment of truth comes to the fore, and then they're shaking like a leaf, and
Hmm.
the classic move is like, so sheep hunting is a really good one because they look similar, and there's like very strict laws around being full cover.
Yes. That's a scary one to mess up.
Yeah, and the classic one that happens is buddy gets lined up on this animal, and then the guide's like, "Oh yeah, the farthest one from the right," and then big gun flip and lands back on the pack or whatever, and
Uh-huh.
oh yeah, nope, put another one in him, and then two sheep fall over.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's just like in the moment, like particularly like if it's like a little band of rams or something like that,
Hmm.
you'll get a little excitable, and
Yeah.
then yeah, but it doesn't happen often, but it absolutely happens where people will get the gun flip, and then
Yeah.
it lands, and then they're on a different animal, and then the adrenaline is just pumping at that point in time. But
Yeah. That's like my worst fear of is really messing up out in the field like and shooting something I shouldn't or yeah, or injuring the animal. So like people often ask me like how do you kill an animal? I'm like I just shut down my emotions and I've only done it once, but I have harvested meat rabbits and chickens by hand. And it's like I just can't be too emotional or else I'll probably hesitate and make a mistake. So there's time for emotion later, but for now, this is the job that needs to be done, and I just want to get it done right.
yeah, there's definitely like a gravity to it for sure, and I think that like I don't think people actually enjoy like me personally, like I don't enjoy like killing stuff per se, but
No.
like it's like part of a larger process, and like
Mm-hmm.
I always
Okay.
find that like the closer the uh the animal gets to like being on the table, like the more like enjoyment you get out of it, and it's like it's very. I think there's something like innately human about going into the wilderness, procuring something, bringing it back, and feeding your friends and family. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
something that humans have been doing forever.
Yeah.
And I think that I definitely think that for people that eat meat, they should go out and get like procure that meat for themselves at least once, just to know what's involved.
Mm-hmm.
I always think about people they've got you know some like pork loin or like a couple steaks that are sitting in their freezer and then they rot in the freezer. It's like
Yeah.
what it took to get to that place.
Yeah.
If you had to do that yourself, like if
Mm-hmm.
you like pack out an animal on your damn back for hours and hours and hours and hours,
Yeah.
like, you sure as hell are not going to let that rot in your fridge. Like
That's
I
right.
physically carried that hours and hours up and down mountains to try and get it back so it could be a food product. I'm not going to let that go to waste. So it makes you a lot
100%.
conscious about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why we're here. We want it to be as close to our food as possible. Um, and then being able to enjoy it on the dinner table and knowing where that food came from and to nourish the people that we love. It's the best.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that definitely is yeah, that's a great cause
Yeah.
on the whole.
Cool. I know that you got a busy schedule, so um, we can close it here. But just wanted to thank you for coming on and sharing about the Spey Foundation and Cast and Iron and all of those things. It's good to get to know you a little bit better and to share your story with the audience. So appreciate
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. My absolute pleasure. I'm happy to chat about stuff that I actually know things about. Um, anytime. Yeah, and definitely don't be a stranger now. We're like North Shore, or I'm now a North Shore person.
That's right. Yeah, we're practically neighbors, and you got a fresh baby and a toddler.
Yeah, definitely
It's
keeping
awesome.
me on my toes. That's for sure. Keeping me very tired and very on my toes. So it's I think somebody was telling me it's a beautiful chaos.
Yeah, it's pretty much how it is. Yeah. Well, I'm on the other end of it now, launching our first into the world, and he's turning 18 in a month, which
That's wild.
is it's pretty wild. And yeah, I'm not crying right now, but certain moments where I'm like I'm just not okay because just the other day he was my 10-year-old buddy, and now he's this big man, and yeah, he's doing his thing just like everybody does, but I just wasn't ready, wasn't prepared for all of this 18 years to go by so quick, but here we are.
Yeah.
But
Well,
you're just
congrats on
starting,
making
so
that far, both of you.
yeah. Yeah, well, you too. Well, thank you again, and we will talk to you soon again, I'm sure. And yeah, I'll be watching what you're up to on Instagram. I'll put your handles in there so people can follow you and see what you got going on.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Chat soon.
All right,
Cheers.
thanks, Teddy.